in terms of violating trust, Hina Change goes even further with what happens in the first chapter.
Oh, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
All right. So what is Hina Change about, Lum?
Hina Change is a body-switching manga that stars Hina, who is this bullied, very timid girl, and her former childhood best friend, Ren, who is one of the most popular kids in the school, but is closeted gay. He hasn't really come out yet, but he tries to come out to his best friend who he has a crush on, Makoto, but Makoto is homophobic, and so he jokes and makes Ren feel like shit. And so, in desperation, Ren initiates a switch with Hina so that in Hina's body, he can confess his love to Makoto. And from there, it escalates out of control, and he has sex with Makoto in Hina's body. And then from there, after switching back, Hina seeing Ren in the state he's in, and also because Hina's whole thing is that she's isolated, but she loves Ren herself, and in future chapters explores that there's even more kind of disturbing levels to that, but she decides to take advantage of Ren's guilt to basically continue doing the switching thing, in which she loans her body out to Ren for him to date Makoto in her body while she lives in Ren's body. And then in future chapters, she feels a sense of empowerment by being in Ren's body and by being a different person. But we'll get into that later. But that's basically the premise, is that it's a body-switching manga in which the male character switches bodies with the female protagonist to date, someone that he can't date because homophobia and stuff. But also this whole added element that essentially in her body, he costs her virginity. It's basically, you could describe it as rape, because the Makoto does not know who he's actually having sex with too. So it's a lot of violations of trust and intimacy there.
Yeah. Man, so I usually, this might be a weird thing, but I'm usually not super into body swap stories, especially not when it comes to anime and manga, because when it comes to body swap stories, there's always, because it's always between a boy and a girl, and there always has to be some kind of weird thing where the boy's oh, I'm in a female body, and oh no, now I have girly parts, or we always have to call attention to that. And
yeah, I mean, we've all read hentai, Colton.
There's always some weird implications and stuff that I feel some stories probably linger on too much and everything, and that's just how I feel generally about those kinds of stories in anime and manga. But like I said with Dear Sachan, this had no problem keeping my interest.
Yeah, it avoids the usual body switch cliches by having the fact that the characters have done this body switching thing before, so we don't need to spend time going through the motions of, oh, what, I'm in another person's body. And so it really focuses kind of on the psychological element of the desperation of wanting to be another person, which is the core of this manga. Really, is that they're not happy with the lives that the way they are. They're not happy with the people who they are. They want to be the other person. So, and that body switch allows them to do that. And so far, in the third chapter, it has this positive bent to it that Ren is very happy in Hina's body dating Makoto. They seem to have a positive relationship. And then Hina is feeling incredibly empowered in Ren's body, having a strong body, and that's athletic, being accepted in social circles. She is feeling empowered by that. So that's the core thing, is they desperately want to be the other person, and switching allows that to happen. But where the complication comes in is that the relationship is based on a foundation of manipulation and kind of the violation of trust, because essentially, Hina is very desperate to have a connection with Ren for one thing, because they were childhood friends, but they drifted apart as they grew up. But she loves Ren romantically, And even though Ren is gay and she knows she can't be with him, by doing this body switch thing, like being in his body, that is like a sense of intimacy that she like craves and desires. And also, like, kind of is applied in the beginning pages of the first chapter, like just seeing Ren, someone who is considered like one of those popular people in the school, like someone who is like considered strong, athletic, and confident stuff, like seeing them grovel before her, like that gives her a sense of empowerment because she has something over him that she can use against him at some, like, and to manipulate him. And then she takes that even further by continuing the relationship with Makoto in a way that kind of eggs Ren on into continuing the body switch thing too. So the entire relationship between her and Ren is based on, again, deceit and manipulation. And it's very interesting, Hina's character, in that, like, she doesn't seem to value herself that much. Like, in the flashback we kind of see in the second chapter of, like, a childhood instance of their body switching, where, like, Ren is climbing this fence and then he invites Hina to join her. Like, Hina initiates the switch, and that causes Ren and Hina's about to, like, fall off the fence. But Hina's logic is that I don't want you to do anything dangerous while you're in your body. Use my body if you want to do something dangerous. So it's like, Hina does not, like, value her own body and, like, seems to pedestalize Ren. And I think the implication from that, why Ren drifted apart from her and, like, shied away from her, is because, like, he felt unease that, like, Hina kind of thought in this way and, like, was very uncomfortably, like, pedestalizing him in their relationship in a way, and being a little too over reliant on him as well, like in the sense that, like, whenever Hina would get in trouble, they would do the body switch, and then, you know, Ren in Hina's body would take the blame from it. Like when, you know, Hina destroyed a bunch of flowers in preschool, like they did the switch and Ren took the blame, and like Ren says that, oh, it was not a big deal, but like there's just that panel, like, where we don't see his expression before that like kind of gives a sense of, you know, it does affect him. And so a series of experiences like those over a period of time, like, that probably contributed to why they drifted apart. And it's definitely like an active thing on Ren's part, avoiding Hina until like that moment of desperation where he desperately just wanted to have a connection with Makoto. So again, there's like a lot of different layers going on in terms of the relationships between these characters and the psychology of these characters. And so 3 chapters in, I'm definitely very intrigued of like where it will go with all of that, because it's currently incredibly unhealthy and toxic, even though seemingly in the third chapter, it seems, oh, the status quo that we found is fulfilling for both of us, but that can't continue as it is forever. So when the complications start occurring and everything starts getting twisted up and tangled and messy again, like, that's going to be really interesting to see what the series does with that, and like how things will spiral out of control in terms of like these characters' relationships and like what decisions they'll make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this, like, I'm not saying this is like the exact same thing, but like this really reminded me of like the very little I know about like Scum Swish in particular, where it's like it's a series that is going to deal with a lot of very difficult, really somewhat twisted emotions, and like you kind of have to be like, I feel like this is going to be the kind of series that people need to be kind of prepared for, if that makes any sense mentally.
I mean, yeah, it's dealing with dark, messy emotions. Like the way the characters are approaching their situation is, again, from a kind of a state of like desperation to like desperately be something they're not, or having connection with someone they haven't had a connection with or can't. So again, like, that's not a healthy foundation for having a relationship with anybody, and so that will come to a head at some point. So this is definitely focusing on very dark, but still very real kind of emotions people experience of like desperately wanting to feel a certain way or have a relationship with someone in a certain way, but that not being the reality, but then forcing that to be reality.
But Maxie, do you have anything you want to add to the conversation here?
What's the implication of a cis gay man achieving sex with a cis straight man by occupying the body of a woman, not just through the sense that the man's being deceived, which ties into just endless problems with quote unquote trap culture in Japanese entertainment, but also in that person's sexual and gender expression. It becomes a viable alternative for them to go from a gay cis man to a straight woman, just to accomplish something they so desperately want to. Like that's messy. That's a real humdinger of a problem. It plays into stuff that's genuinely quite uncomfortable to unpack too much, and that's before you even get down to the fact that like Hina having her body occupied and used for sex is akin to rape, but Makoto's had no say in any of this either. They've essentially been unknowingly raped or some form of sexual assault at the least. There's layers on layers of stuff. You got really uncomfortable sexual and gender politics that I feel like hasn't been given enough thought by the creator going into it. That's really worrying and makes it difficult to fully endorse the series. But it's also these very same things about the series that make it so annoyingly captivating. There's something to this series where, even though I'm fairly convinced Hina Change is a bad comic. I feel like it is from the bottom of my soul, but it also might be incredibly good. And it's the fact that I have such trouble separating everything about the series, which is terrible, from the execution of the series itself, which is incredibly good. And how do you separate those two or decide where you fall on it, you know?
It's a tough read, especially if you have experienced messy feelings about your gender identity too, like stuff with Ren. In many ways, like, I can relate to, like, his feelings of wanting another, like, a female body a lot. But, like, also, again, like you said, like, that, there's a whole other aspect to this that you have to wonder, like, has the author, like, thought this through in terms of, like, the implications beyond in terms of, like, representing other gender identities, trans people and stuff. Like, what are you saying about, like, gender at your core if, like, Ren feels like the only way he could be with Makoto is to have a woman's body?
Well, this is the thing, because it's not wanting a woman's body from an identity perspective. It's wanting a woman's body because it's a way of escaping from the harsh issue of homophobia and rejection. Like, it's which that
like, it's tough.
What do you even make of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not right. He shouldn't have to feel that way.
And I feel like that's something that will be dealt with. That one particular area of it, how it is just a way of Ren kidding themselves to some extent of going, if I do this means I don't have to deal with all the things that are an obstacle to me getting what I want in a relationship as a gay man. And I feel like that has to be dealt with, because if it's not, what the fuck, right?
Yeah, because he can't continue having a relationship with Makoto in Hina's body. Like, he has to at some point admit the truth to him again and, like, be direct with him, or otherwise he just needs to become comfortable with himself and his own gender identity and, like, and his sexuality, or otherwise
it's like something has to change,
or otherwise Hina and Ren will have to commit to spending their lives in each other's bodies, which, for all we know, that might be the direction it goes. And this based on...
I wonder, though, because Makoto's so directly benefiting from this relationship with Makoto and is, like, putting some of herself in there too, that, like, I don't think you could have that simple a resolution.
Yeah, again, I don't think it will be that easy. Because again, there's the complicated stuff between Hina and Ren that's gonna factor in. Because again, their relationship is based on this uneasiness. Like, there's a reason why Ren was avoiding Hina for so long. I think there's probably a deeper reason why Hina is the class pariah than we're aware of right now. There's definitely like something
you'd hope so,
more behind Hina. But yeah.
The alternative to there not being like a good reason is that she's just a class pariah because it's convenient for the plot.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of get hints that Hina, since childhood, was someone who was prone to like make mistakes and be singled out for, causing problems, like when she, as a kid, like, destroyed all the principal's flowers in her preschool or whatever. So it's like a series of incidents like that probably might have alienated her from the rest of the class and ostracized her and made her a target of bullying.
There has to be more to it for it to have escalated to this point, I mean,
it has to be like a series of incidents. It probably needs to be like a really big thing that happened that we're just not aware of right now.
I feel like it's a real shame that the series was only weekly for the first 3 chapters, because the fortnightly pace now is gonna make the whole process of unpacking this comic like that much more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, who knows? Both of these series have a bit of a challenge ahead of them. I mean, it's early days yet, but the only 2 series less hot than them on Manga Plus right now are Terraformers, which is literally just a 6-chapter preview, and Food Wars Le Dessert, which is 1 chapter. So, like, they've really got a journey if they're going to land.
Granted, they did just debut it in the last month, and Hina Change is already climbing up to surpass Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V, so who knows?
Yeah, I mean, if it manages to get up to like Beast Children levels, that might bode a little better for it. And I'm not gonna lie, I've not actually gone on to Shonen Jump Plus to go and check what their hits are like on them right now. So maybe that's something I should have done before going into this show.
I mean, these series are most definitely controversial. People, from the comments I read, do not know what to make of these. It is real left field that these would be Shonen Jump Plus series.
That's the thing. Like Shonen Jump Plus and the Manga Plus experience as a whole, you can see it's been presenting a real challenge to people. Like getting their head around the jump that isn't Shonen Jump, you know? Like, cause it is doing stuff that's a bit more mature and honestly a bit more controversial than what you'd get even from stuff like Young Jump a lot of the time. I think it's quite telling that like the series that are doing the best from the Jump Plus side of things are a little more straightforward. Like Arata Primal's a bit it's pretty much just a shonen series with a bit more gore. Hell's Paradise, it treads the line, and Spy Family, I mean, that's kind of an exception because it's the most perfect comic ever.
Yeah, Spy Family is a monster hit. It has monstrous appeal. It's just so charming. You can't not love it.
I would be surprised if Viz within the next year didn't pick that up for like a volume release or something.
I mean, they'd be mad not to.
Yeah, it'd be a shame if they let it fall into the hands of someone else. I mean, I guess not from us as a consumer's perspective, from like their perspective, like they should really pay attention, like get this.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what I think about a lot? While we're talking about the general reception of this series, like going forward, have you guys ever actually tried to have a look around the Shonen Jump Plus website?
I have not.
No.
So Manga Plus is a really convenient and straightforward app to use. I feel like that's a pretty true statement. Shonen Jump Plus is a fucking nightmare. I'm just trying to go and find Hina Change. There it is. Okay, and it's so awkward to go and look through.
Not very user friendly.
No, not at all. Which means I don't have a very good grip on how well received either of these series are over there yet. I hope at least that Hina Change is doing well enough that it will get to keep doing what it's doing, because that, at least I can say there isn't another series out right now that's preying on my mind like this. That's a lie. That's a lie. There's one more. There is a series this has nothing in common with at all, but that prompts very similar feelings, and English language readers probably aren't ever going to see anything of it. I have no idea if the scan community's touched on it at all, but it's called Poor Genki. It's a Young Jump series that started running that's basically a really twisted, effed up rom-com about a girl who's like bullied and bloodied quite a lot, and the boy who draws violent doujinshi about her because he's become obsessed. And that's on the same level of incredibly uncomfortable but unbearably readable that Hina Changes. And if this is going to be the new trend now for me just getting really into series that I'm not sure if I want to read at all, then I mean I'm here for this. I'm here for this new age of comics that make me feel like shit. It's funny, I used to have a thing that said how many hits the series had gotten. Oh well, Shonen Jump Plus. It's a bad website.
Oh.